Competitive sports is tough, and I don't mean just taking the trash out or doing your taxes tough, but physically and emotionally exhausting. It takes a really special person to compete at such a professional level, and some lucky people get the chance to showcase how good they really are. And even few of those are actually held in such high regard. However, there is a dark side that we don't normally see. Players are thrown into high pressure situations at times, evidently testing their mental fortitude. Millions of people watching you. One mistake stands between you and intense scrutiny. This profession really isn't for the weak-hearted. But the thing that drives those that fail is the drive to succeed and redeem themselves. They're in this position because they've dreamt about this from a very young age. There's nothing else they'd rather be doing. Today I want to talk about the dooming reality of one of those players, Nicho Hynes. Any NRL fan will tell you what they know about Nicho Hynes. He's a competitor, a skillful, systematic player who's sharp with the ball at his hands and feet, a fantastic goal kicker too. Nicho is one of those players who comes along and gets you excited. His extraordinary depth at adapting to any playmaking position make him so fun to watch. Competent as a 5'8", halfback, fullback, and even dummy half at times. However, there is another factor to Nicho's game that I want to talk about. Not so much the physical and theoretical aspects, but addressing the emotional issues that he's facing now as a competitive athlete. But to get there, we need to go back to where it started for him. Nicho Hynes was born on the 18th of June 1996. Raised on the New South Wales Central Coast, he is of Scottish descent, but also boasts a proud Indigenous background. It has always been a strong part of his identity, as he's always open about his experience with the Indigenous community and takes an active role in Indigenous rounds and events. Hynes began to play footy locally for the Woy Woy Roosters, and from a young age it was very clear he had a knack for rugby league. Signed by the Manly Seagulls at a very young age, it was clear that this was a big move for the young lad, as Manly have always boasted a strong history of developing world-class youth and nurturing a strong pathway system. At youth level with the Seagulls, Hynes linked up with future NRL first graders Jesse Ramian, Liam Knight, and of course Tom Trbojevic. Hynes left Manly to gain some experience, playing for Queensland Cup team the Mackay Cutters, before eventually grabbing the eye of Melbourne Storm coach Craig Bellamy. Hynes developed his game through the Storm's feeder club, the Sunshine Coast Falcons, before eventually making his debut at fullback in a round 21 win against the Bunnies in 2019. It wasn't a sensational debut, but he did a respectable job against a decent side. 2020 was a much more proactive year for Hynes, playing 11 games off the bench in a utility role and adapting more to the pace of the NRL. Hynes was named on the bench in Melbourne's 26-20 win over the Panthers in the grand final that year. Although selected, he never came off the bench, meaning that he was the first NRL player in the modern era to be selected for a grand final, but not to play a single minute. This didn't diminish Hynes or his spirit, as he still basked in the achievements of his teammates after full time. A humble action from a humble gentleman. Gathering more and more experience, Hynes was capable of filling in the halves and fullback roles whenever necessary for the Storm. In 2021, he seemed to find his element game by game, putting in some brilliant performances. These performances earned him a spot in the extended Blue squad for the 2021 State of Origin series. And although he didn't play a single minute, the experience was invaluable for Hynes, as he adopted another element to his game from being in camp with such genius tacticians. 2021 ended in disappointment for Hynes and his Storm, as they were knocked out in the preliminary final by a determined Penrith side seeking redemption from the year prior. Earlier that year, Hynes had agreed to join Cronulla to take on more of an advanced role and to further adapt his game. Rather than playing in the shadows of greats, he wanted to be a great himself. So while one chapter ends, another begins. 2022 was a big year for the Sharks. Craig Fitzgibbon was announced as coach, and he intended to complete a full systemic reset after the club's disappointing 2021 season. He brought in reliable lock and casual hooker Cameron McGuinness from St George, try machine Matt Ikuvalu from the Roosters, and reliable forward Dale Finucane from Melbourne. But all eyes were on Nicho Hynes. Fitzgibbon had given such prestigious praise for Hynes, as his ability to control a game with his efficient playmaking skills gave him cause to be the NRL's next big superstar. Enormous pressure was on Hynes to fill the void left by halfback Shaun Johnson, whose disappointing tenure at Cronulla ended in him rejoining his boyhood club, the New Zealand Warriors, for the 2022 season. But the system was there. Dale Finucane provided excellent depth as a ball-running lock, capable of providing support for his spine, and was a world-class meter eater. His support was meant to ease the pressure off of Hynes' playmaking and provide him with decent attacking and creative options. In round 2, the formula began to excel as they upset a heavily favoured Parramatta side, with Hynes kicking the winning goal from the sideline on the siren. Welcome to Cronulla, Nicho. Nicho's form seemed to grow stronger and stronger each game, mesmerising opposition teams with his brilliant ball-playing skills and suffocating them with his elite kicking game. His poise on the ball and individual flair made him incredibly hard to predict, and Cronulla thrived off his effervescence. His good form once again got him selected in the Blue squad for Game 1 of State of Origin. Eventually selected as 18th man, many people were baffled at coach Brad Fittler's decision. Cries for him to be the bench utility weren't just uttered by fans but also experts. New South Wales would eventually lose that game 16-10 at home in what was seen as a big upset by Queensland. And while hindsight is incredibly hard to predict, you would think Hynes' experience as a prominent utility bench player in his early playing days would have paid off for New South Wales, as Stephen Crichton was incredibly underutilised on the night in the 14. And while representative honours may have eluded him, it didn't stop him from continuing his scintillating form at club level. Hynes racked up 21 try assists, 29 line break assists, and launched 172 attacking kicks, with his 375 average kicking metres. And while stats aren't really everything, his ability to clutch up was, as he kicked 4 field goals that year, including a crucial one in round 20 against South Sydney and Golden Point. A stellar individual year culminated in Hynes winning the Dally M medal for Best Player and the Proven Summons medal for Players Player, both fitting achievements for an outstanding individual season. Hynes' on-field and off-field attitude was what made him so adored by the community, and his success was thoroughly deserved through the eyes of most. Unfortunately, the fairy tale season ended in devastating circumstances, as his Cronulla side were bundled out in the finals in consecutive weeks despite finishing second. Hynes had played a fantastic game in the qualifier loss against the Cowboys. However, this was heavily contrasted in the semi-final game against South Sydney, when he barely made an impact on the game, leaving everyone disappointed and a little bit confused. But these things happen. All Cronulla and Hynes could do now was focus on 2023. 2023 started with a mountain of expectation placed on Hynes. Would post-Dally M fatigue hit him, or would he thrive under the added pressure? Now, it's become widely theorised that Dally M winners are targeted the season after by opposition teams, a way of shutting down the most dangerous threat. We wouldn't get to see Nicho play until round 4, as injury kept him sidelined for the first few weeks. But his return was worth the wait as he carved it up against the Dragons, playing a crucial role in the Sharks' big win. He was composed, dynamic, and unflappable it seemed. He was back to his best, and any uncertainty about how he would perform under the circumstances were immediately dismissed. Now, with Nathan Cleary obviously being first choice halfback for State of Origin, there was speculation Hynes would partner him in the halves, playing more of a 5/8 role, taking a substantial amount of kicking pressure off of Cleary's game, something 5/8s in the past for New South Wales have really failed to accomplish. Teams were announced ahead of Game 1, and it was revealed Hynes was selected as the bench utility, with Jerome Luai getting the nod for the number 6 jersey, as he had in 2021 and 2022. A lot of people were disappointed, but nevertheless still excited to see Nicho get his opportunity. As New South Wales looked to regain the shield after a series loss in 2022, Hynes was ready to play a key role in that Blues side, as his experience in camp years prior gave him a valuable edge. Unfortunately, Hynes would sit on the bench for the majority of the game, only coming on to replace Tom Trbojevic at centre when he was taken off for an HIA. Playing unnaturally out of position, and with New South Wales in front with 10 minutes remaining, all the Blues and Nicho had to do was stay strong in defence and focus on isolating key Queensland players. With 7 minutes remaining, Queensland spread the ball wide and slipped past a missed tackle from Nicho Hynes to create an overlap and eventually score. Nicho received heavy criticism after the game, especially on social media, for his inability to shut the play down. Now, I think this criticism was completely unjustified, as he was playing in a position he was very unfamiliar with and didn't have much time to inject himself into the game after. Hynes was open about the adjectivity he experienced online after the game, and recounts that it took him to a dark place that year. And while you may think this was the catalyst to his eventual downfall that year, Nicho still had to deal with other things going on in his personal life. Now, I won't disclose this, as I don't know Nicho personally, and any information I give away would be morally inconsiderate. But Nicho's personal life outside of football was what may have contributed to the decline in form that year. After Origin, he looked shell-shocked, making basic errors and letting pressure of big games consume him. This was really evident in the Sharks' elimination final loss to the Roosters, missing chance after chance to kick a one-pointer. They lost 13-12, and disappointment shrouded what was meant to be a successful year for Cronulla and Nicho. In 2024, Hynes was ready to address any uncertainty around his inability to perform in high-pressure situations. He started the year off strong, playing a big role in the Sharks' early season run toward the minor premiership. But one game can change everything, and it was once again the demons of representative honours that came back to haunt him. With Nathan Cleary and Mitchell Moses out through injury, Hynes was called up to start at halfback for New South Wales in Game 1 at home. It was a huge chance for Hynes to redeem himself and shake the theoretical monkeys off his back. Early on in the game, it was evident that targeting Hynes was key to Queensland's success, as suffocating his kicking game would eventually lead to a turnover in momentum. A few errors in the opening few minutes highlighted what was looking to be a long night for Nicho. The game completely changed in the 8th minute when Joseph Suaalii was sent off for a tackle on Reece Walsh, shifting Nicho into unfamiliar territory position-wise once again and dooming him to another game of mediocrity. Although he did get a try assist, a 38-10 defeat to Queensland soured what was meant to be his big comeback into the representative stage and give his season another kickstart. Hynes was dropped for Game 2 in favour of Mitch Moses, who would go on to help New South Wales win the series, even scoring the game-deciding try in Game 3 at Suncorp. It was very different for Hynes on the club side of things, as he failed to kick the winning goal against the Bulldogs from right in front and shanked a sideline conversion on the full-time siren that would have levelled things up against the Dolphins and sent the game into extra time. In a somewhat twisted sort of irony, completely contrasting the things he'd accomplished in 2022. Still only 28, Nicho has time to refocus and find another purpose to his game. We've seen the ability to win games and clutch up is there, but what I think he needs now is some sort of sports psychology to battle the demons he faces on and off the pitch. Extremely skillful and as humble as they come, I see big things for Nicho in the next few years. I think we all hope he finally gets another chance at Origin level to redeem himself, much like Ben Hunt had done before, and to see him lift a premiership with Cronulla would be a fitting achievement for the brilliant team player he is. I think this injury he's sustained now will give him some time to focus on life outside of league. It will give him some time to ground himself and focus what his biggest strengths and weaknesses are. The one thing that really makes me relate to Nicho is his passionate service to mental health in and outside of rugby league. His generosity and compassion within the community are what make him so strong in my eyes and make him an outstanding ambassador for the game. Wishing you all the best, Nicho. A little bit of a deeper one today, but I still hope you all enjoyed it. Catch up on the latest social media content from my Instagram page, link will be down below, and comment on what you think I should talk about next. This is Lux, stay frosty, stay golden, stay good.